Check out the article written about the pod. The link is on the website and in the show notes. If you're listening to this episode because of the article, let me know by leaving me fan mail or an email at bookkeepermensch at gmail. Enjoy the episode.
Paul Rosenblum is a bookkeeper, not an accountant or a CPA. Although the information in this podcast comes from professionals, it's meant to give you enough knowledge about these subjects to have a meaningful dialogue with your tax preparer about bookkeeping and taxes.
As I write this episode, the March 15 deadline just passed, and I'm not in a rubber room just yet. And now I have to just get through the April 15 deadline before I get back to totally regular life. Although this year, the stress level has been way down compared to other years, except for 2 incidents pretty recently. I was going to talk about something else in this episode today, but it can wait. However, since the last 2 episodes have been about regulation in the industry, I have a few other ideas to ponder. Realistic? Maybe not, but let's talk about them anyway. I'm Paul Rosenblum. Let me first say that this is a somewhat pointless episode, but take a few minutes out of your day and listen to it anyway. Maybe it'll make you smile. We have talked about regulations for tax preparers and bookkeepers, but what we haven't spoken about is regulation for business owners, not business regulations. There are plenty of those. I'm talking about the responsibilities of business owners, and I'm talking mostly about small business owners and what their responsibilities are outside of filing taxes and not committing fraud and not bouncing checks, especially payroll checks, paying payroll taxes, and many other things. What I'm talking about is creating rules about how much a small business owner has to talk to their bookkeeper and accountant. Some accountants have no relationship with their clients except during tax season. Others have monthly or quarterly check-ins with their clients year-round. What I'm talking about is the fact that I have several clients who never ask to see their books. I send reports when I finish each month, but I get no email or phone calls from clients wanting to discuss things or if they have any questions about the reports, the profit and loss, and balance sheet that I have sent. Really? How can that be? Are they determining the profit of their business by looking at their bank account at the end of the month? And if it went up, they made a profit? What does that say about the client? I look at that as disrespect to the bookkeeper. I work hard, and as I have said in many episodes, I expect to work with the client to put books together that will be helpful to them to make better business decisions and to be able to submit to the tax preparer for tax purposes. How can a client run a business without looking at the books and having regular conversations with their bookkeeper? Maybe regulations for the business owners are in order. Maybe the standard should be that every business owner has at least one 15-minute call monthly with their bookkeeper so they know what's happening financially with their business. Nope, it'll never happen, and it also is unenforceable. I had one situation recently that a government refund check was deposited into the bank. This particular bank does not show graphics of most of the incoming checks that clients deposit into their business bank accounts. So I didn't know what it was. I made the mistake of entering it as revenue because of a QuickBooks Online rule that was set up automatically. When the tax preparer was going through the books, he emails me and yells at me in capital letters for entering that in the wrong category. He's very high strung and draws conclusions quickly based on very little information. The client knew that it wasn't revenue Since it was a paper IRS check, the tax preparer knew that it wasn't revenue, even to the amount of the payment and the interest. Why didn't I know? Why did nobody tell me? I don't get no respect at all. Oh, that's my Rodney Dangerfield impression. Regulation number 1. Having required conversations between the client and the bookkeeper and the bookkeeper and the tax preparer when needed. In my signature of my email, one of the things I say with graphics is, I'm a bookkeeper, not a magician. I can't read minds, and this is why there has to be communication with the team that I've been talking about for ages on this podcast. The problem? Enforcement. As we say in New York City, forget about it. It can't be enforced, but it can still be a dream. My own dream, but I'm sharing that dream with all of you. Some tax preparers are like Sunday drivers. They come out of hiding only from the middle of January through April, and then they disappear again for the rest of the year. We shouldn't need regulations, but human beings aren't perfect. Sometimes we all have to be pushed to do the right thing. I have clients who I send questions to when I finish each month, and aside from 2 or 3 clients who answer within an hour or two, most take a week or two to come back with answers for just 3 or 4 questions that I might have. That slows down the entire process of finishing that month of their books. But they don't really care, since they don't ever ask to look at or discuss their own business books. It's a strange situation. I get paid by the client, but in reality, I'm putting together books for the tax preparer much of the time. I'm the rope in the tug of war, and I don't like it. The problem is this. Again, how to enforce the rules or regulations that would be set up for clients. I don't think we can. So maybe this episode is completely null and void. However, it's my podcast, my dream, and my rules, so I shall continue. No, I'm just venting at all of you, and clients, of course. I was just working with an accountant the other day, and he wanted a couple of things changed in the books. He was very nice about it, and he's truly a pleasure to work with, and I told him so. But others are emotional, angry, overworked, and generally not professional toward people who they have to work with, clients and bookkeepers. How do you regulate that? I guess we can't. Dream on. Remember Steven Tyler and Aerosmith? And the last impossible regulation or rule in a perfect world would be this. If you are a bookkeeper or a tax preparer, no federal or state taxes would be owed. We wouldn't have a shortage of bookkeepers or tax preparers if that happened. I know, impossible and will never happen, but I'll channel Steven Tyler and have a dream on moment. So this is an episode on regulation ideas that actually will never be regulations because they are unenforceable. However, business owners, yes, I'm talking to you, it would be nice if you communicated with your bookkeeper with respect because we are working hard for you and care about your books. And we want you to make good business decisions by understanding your own books. And if you think your bookkeeper isn't working hard for you, then it's time to change bookkeepers. Maybe some of the problem is not having regulations on bookkeeping, as I've talked about in the last couple of episodes. The client just wants to find the lowest price bookkeeper and doesn't expect anything more than putting together a set of books that can be filed in a tax return, even if it's not 100% correct. If they get audited later, they will blame the bookkeeper, fire them, and possibly do the same to the tax preparer, or even have the audacity to request a large discount on a future tax return. I have always dealt with smaller businesses, a business that I can call the owner directly and have that relationship whenever possible. and that has mostly worked for many, many years. But there really has been a shift since March of 2020. Clients want cheap bookkeeping, even if it means hiring someone outside the United States who might know accounting in general, but not necessarily American accounting and what the IRS is looking for. Remember Tom Hanks and his friend Wilson in the movie Castaway? Sometimes I think us bookkeepers are on our own island, and every now and then a cruise ship passes and waves at us and then goes on their way. The only difference is that I'm not sleeping in a hut and looking for food. I have a grocery store 3 blocks away that's open 24/7. Sometimes I want to find that island and live there for a month or two, all by myself. No internet, no TV, only clean air, lots of food, and otherwise silence. But back to reality, though, it's still tax season. I'll be concentrating on the sole props, single member LLCs, and last minute things that will come in. And angry tax preparers, angry clients, online accounting software that's slow because their servers are overloaded. Deep breaths. I picked this career, and it's 1,000 times better for me to do this than to work for someone else. So I take this whole episode back. It's not that bad. I do realize how lucky I am. But tomorrow will be another day. Like my blood sugar, my mood, frustrations, and feelings about being a bookkeeper for 30 years go up and down depending on which set of books I'm working on at the time. The good news is that the warm weather is coming, which means that tax season will be over soon. Be in your AirPods soon. I'm Paul Rosenblum.